Now this is one of the reasons, not all of the reasons, why these sites around here that we've been going to are so defensive in these cliffs, up in these crazy places. Hey, how's it going, my friends? Much love. We wanted to share some fascinating things with you today, starting here in this canyon called Cuervo Canyon or Crow Canyon here in New Mexico. We wanted to start with this. Now, in the bottom of this canyon, you got many amazing things. Lots of petroglyphs throughout this canyon, most of them put on these walls by the Navajo people. Okay, however, there are Anasazi petroglyphs also throughout this canyon. Now, this is the same canyon we shared with you, the Shaft House. Now, to get into some of the histories that we wanted to share with you today, we wanted to start right here. Okay, so as you might know, many of the native tribes didn't necessarily have a clear, communication written language. Okay, so in a way, what you're looking at, in a way, is a written language. What it's showing us, what it's depicting to us specifically on this panel, as you can see, we got Spanish. Conquistadors, Spaniards, riding upon their horses, and as you can see, they got metal helmets, they got swords in their hands. This is amazing, and we wanted to get into some things in this video, but to do so, we wanted to cover a little bit of Spanish history. Okay, as you might know, it was the 1500s when the Spanish really started to invade North America, starting specifically with Hernan Cortez, Spanish conquistador, who invaded the Yucatan, made his way to the Aztec Empire, and conquered it. Okay, now this was in the year 1521. Hernan Cortez conquered the Aztec Empire, really brought in the Spanish to settle down, and with that, they started settling, and then they started sending out scouts, sending out riders and armies to cover and conquer more territories. Okay, so after he conquers the Aztec Empire in the year 1540, you got another Spanish conquistador by the name Francisco de Coronado, and he comes riding up into what is now New Mexico, looking for 7 cities, lost cities of gold. Okay, so they come up here likewise looking for treasure, looking for gold, and of course it's a complete failure. They never find any gold, and they find a lot of trouble, and basically what he does is he goes back to Mexico with his tail between his legs. Okay, and then it's quiet for a while, and for the next several years it's quiet in the Southwest. It wasn't until the 1590s when you got another Spanish conquistador by the name of Juan de Oñate, and what he does is he comes riding up here and he brings with him a bunch of settlers, and he attacks a few pueblos, specifically the Acoma Pueblo, and with that he did a lot of cruel actions to the native people of Acoma. For example, he would cut off the leg of the young Native Americans so that they couldn't rebel against him. Okay, now there's still to this very day many cities in the state of New Mexico that raise up statues of Juan de Oñate, as many look at him as a hero type figure, and also many look at him as a very cruel man, which he was. Okay, so to this very day, we've had shootings, we've had conflicts, we've had protests, all concerning Juan de Oñate. Okay, so basically, what you'll start to see through the 1600s, specifically the 1680s, it happened. What is referred to as the Pueblo revolt, and it's when the native tribes in this area and also surrounding areas began to rebel and to fight back against Spanish pressure, Spanish aggression, and the Spanish invasion. Okay, so they start to fight back, and there's a lot of conflict. Okay, through the 1690s, you see there's more and more conflict arising in these areas. Okay, now in 1705, there was a leader of New Spain, is what they called this place. For long before this continent was North America, it was claimed by Spain as New Spain. And what we had is in Santa Fe, in the territory of New Mexico, we had a governing force, a man by the name of Cuervo Valdez. Okay, Francisco Cuervo Valdez, who at that time, in the summer of 1705, set up a campaign with a leader named Roy Madrid to ride up out of San Juan up into this area to make war against the Navajo people. That specifically is what we wanted to get to in this video. We wanted to start here with these amazing petroglyphs here of the Spanish. You can see the Spanish on their horses. As some of you might know, before the Spanish invasion, horses were unheard of on this continent, okay? So it was the Spanish that brought with them horses. Here we could see depicted on this Navajo petroglyph horses, and with it Spaniards on them with their steel helmets and with their swords. And this is amazing. We got what looks like likely a Navajo warrior. Just behind me here you can see there's another what looks likely to be a Navajo warrior. Just down the wall here we'll show you there's petroglyphs of bows and arrows and things of alike. Up here you can see there's a petroglyph of what looks like a dog. So many amazing petroglyphs on these walls. Over here we got a corn stalk along with some other things. We got a handprint here. Over here we look likely might be a river, perhaps the San Juan River. But we wanted to share with you some amazing histories in this video, and I do hope that all of you enjoy. Here we can see a petroglyph here that's got about 7 bow and arrows, along with this figure here. I'm not certain what that means. Below it we got what looks like a hoof print. This is likely an indication of war. Coming across the way here, you'll see that there's another, of course, Navajo warrior depicted here. And of course, walking over, you can see the main panel we're sharing with you here today. This one, getting an up close shot of these. You can see that these are depicting the Spaniards, of course, riding upon their horses with swords in their hands, steel helmets on their heads. And of course, over here it looks like what we got is a woman, perhaps in distress between this conflict before this war here. And I find this fascinating. We wanted to share with you some fascinating things in this video. We wanted to start by showing you this here panel. Today we find ourselves on the edge of the highway, Highway 64, which is just running back here behind me. Okay, now it was my dad that first told me that right up on this hilltop behind me, there's an old busted down, destroyed Pueblo ruins. Okay, we want to go and check that out. But before we do, we wanted to share with you some brief histories concerning this place. We are in La Jarra Canyon. Okay, now La Jarra Canyon has a lot of amazing history, is which we wanted to share with you. Today with us, we brought the Spanish records. Okay, this is a military leader's Spanish journal that he recorded when he was sent in 1705 to make war in this place against the Navajo people. So we wanted to read just a little bit of this journal, share with you some brief histories before we go up on this hilltop and check out this evidence, this old busted down Pueblo ruins. So reading the preface of this journal, we read, "On the night of August 10th, 1705, Roy Madrid and his army rode in silence across the unfamiliar landscape of northern New Mexico. His captains were seasoned veterans, among the most experienced and capable fighting men in the New Spain. As the sun went down, 3 hours later the moon, a 3-day crescent, set as well. As they continued westward in the darkness, struggling through brambles and rocks, but still undetected by the enemy, upon the dawn they found the first cornfield of the Navajo people. Everyone changed to fresh horses, and then they struck." So Spanish military Roy Madrid begins his journal, and this is how it begins. "In this pueblo of San Juan de Caballeros, on the 31st of July, 1705, I, military leader Roy Madrid, by order of the Lord Governor and Captain General, Don Francisco Cuervo y Valdez, Knight of the Order of Santiago and Treasurer of the Factor of the Royal Treasury Office of the city of Guadalajara, go forth to make war by fire and by sword on the Apache Navajo Nation. Now, for the sake of time, we're not going to read the whole journal to you, but we will share pieces of it. In just a brief summary, we see that on August 1st, 1705, Roy Madrid and his army leave San Juan Pueblo, which is a place just about 40 miles north of Santa Fe, just a few miles north of today what is called Espanola, New Mexico. Okay, now you won't find it on a map as San Juan. Of course, there's things in the town still named San Juan, but today it's on a map as Oke-Owinge, which is being interpreted the village of the strong. Okay, now they make their way out of San Juan Pueblo. They head towards Pictoris Peak, which is in the area today called Pillar, New Mexico. Making their way up to the Taos Pueblo, they pick up at least about 60 Indian allies, and then they cross 100 miles through what is today called the Carson National Forest, making their way up to a place called Chama. Okay, Chama is still there today. Now, just about 30 miles up the road here, not far from Chama, is a place called Dulce, New Mexico. Okay, now as they make their way around Chama and come down through the mountains by Dulce, they set up a base camp. Okay, now they called that base camp Laguna de San Joseph. Okay, now they set up there, and we'll just kind of pick up from there with his journal. Okay, now this is what we read in his journal. At 5 in the afternoon, I left the Laguna de San Joseph, so named by me because I was the first to go there. I traveled the rest of the way until around midnight along some low, heavily wooded hills, until I spotted a fire that I imagined was made by the Apaches who were up ahead. I halted and sent a squadron of soldiers with some Indian allies all on foot to surround and grab them in order to have more certain guide. They had been gone for 3 hours. When they returned to where I was, they found nothing more than the fire itself. I started off again from there, and after about 1 league, now a league is about 3.5 miles, I think. That's how they measured distance. We entered the most indomitable land encountered so far, consisting of rocks, tangle brush, and arroyos. Until I continued, I arrived at the first milpa of the Navajo Apaches, where I called a halt. Everyone changed to fresh mounts in order to launch the dawn assault, which took place on the 11th of the said month, year, and I left the vanguard squadron together with that of the horse herd and some Indian allies with the pack train and their people's burdens. I ordered the cavalry leader to march, following me with the whole company. After taking these measures, invoking the name of our Lord Santiago, I went on the launch, the dawn assault, throughout the whole Canada, the whole canyon, which was more than 4 leagues in extent. I found all of the ranchos and houses abandoned, and I only found 2 warriors who we killed climbing up the mesa. Likewise, 2 Indian women died at the hands of our Indian allies without my being able to prevent it, and we caught 1 young boy. I rejoined my troops after we laid waste to their milpas. Okay, now milpas are the cornfields of the Navajo Apache people, referred to by the Spanish, milpas. And we burned their houses, and the Apaches came out on tops of the mesas to shout at us without our being able to hurt them because there was no way up. Now, we look at Cowboy Canyon, and we also look at the Lahara, my friends. Some of these places are very narrow. They refer to them as the Narrows. Okay, and there's no way up. It's steep on both sides, my friends. So we know that they had no way up. And he says, I reached my company, which I found destroying the milpas and had left behind some and burning the homes and ranchos. The Indian allies were looting the household goods that the Apaches had taken upon their mesas, and they took a mare and her colt. There the cavalry leader, Miguel de Herrera, told me that while the horses were passing through the gap, the Apaches had shot 2 of them with arrows from the heights of the mesas. The enemy achieved nothing more because the squadron leader and his companions immediately went to the defense of the horses with their weapons until the horses passed through the Narrows. Okay, again, the Narrows, he's referring to the really deep parts of these canyons. My company delayed for a time, and while the men took some refreshment, which was the ears of the tender corn, maize, since that's all that there was. Another place, this is what we read. The troops finally came out of the rocks in the brush at the mouth of the canyon, where it joins the broad, sandy bottom of Lahara Canyon. So this is where they're coming down Cowboy Canyon, which meets up with the Lahara just about a mile to the east from where we're at right now. And then Lahara Canyon goes all the way to what is today Navajo Dam. Okay, it's a reservoir. Okay, but they're coming down the Lahara. Lahara Canyon is a narrow and confined canyon. The army halted at the first Navajo cornfield, and they changed to fresh horses in preparation for a dawn attack on whomever and whatever laid ahead. And although we had still not found the San Juan River, there was no question that we had arrived in the Navajo homeland. So what we see is that the Spanish army leaves their base camp, Laguna de San Joseph, near today what is called Dulce, New Mexico. They're making their way down Cowboy Canyon, Vaqueros Canyon, where it meets the Lahara Canyon, and then it becomes kind of a sandy and broad bottom. Okay, it gets wide down here at the bottom, and that's right where we're at here. Okay, now they come through this canyon in the night. They seen the first cornfield of the Navajo people. Okay, they get ready, they get fresh horses, they prepare their weapons, and on the morning of August the 11th, 1705, the Spanish came through this canyon, raising 9 kinds of hell, killing the people, attacking the people, burning their homes, destroying their cornfields, and making war against the Navajo Nation. So now we're making our way up to this hillside, go check out this Pueblo ruins, if it's still there. We got a couple of ravines here that we got to cross. Of course, it's very muddy today, as it rained all weekend. Down here in the bottom of this canyon, you can see we got some what looks like mountain lion tracks going down this canyon down towards the Lahara. So we're coming up this hill, and it's not very big. It's just the top of it's about right there, you can see. So we're making our way up, see if there's still anything up here, if there's anything visible after all this time. But as I said, my friends, this is very fascinating because this is where it all went down. Right through here is where the first contact was made with the Spanish and the Navajo people in the Spanish and Navajo War of 1705. So we're making our way up here to see what we may find. So coming up the hill, I'm already starting to notice that there's pottery. Governor Gray is what they call this specific one. And also, if you look right here, it looks like there's a mono. You can see that mono right there. Amazing. Well, here's some more pottery laying in here. So we're going to continue up the hillside here. See what else we could find. Here's some more pottery. It's just washing down off of this hillside, I reckon. My dad's old story rings true. There must be something up here. Starting to see bigger pieces of pottery. See, there's that piece there. A little bit bigger piece right here. So as you can see, we're just about towards the top of this hill. Looking out, you can see the highway running down the canyon. So Vaqueros Canyon, which is Cowboy Canyon, is just up there. You can kind of see it. Lahara comes in from this way, just behind that bend. And then it's just Lahara Canyon, all the way down to Navajo Dam Reservoir, which is quite a ways from where we're at. But you can see this is the sandy, broad bottom as described in the Spanish records. So sure enough, my friends, right as soon as I got to the top of this, you can tell there's all these stones falling down right here. I do believe it's just here at the top. So we're just to the top now, and what I can already see is that there's a busted down wall right here. There's one just up here behind me. And as we come up, I think we're directly at it already. Sure enough. As we get a look here, we can see that looks like we come up right into a room. As I try not to stand on anything I shouldn't, we could see there's roofing timbers laying here. There's a large wall there, probably the largest room. Looks like there's one over there, one over there. As I come up, you can see there's another wall just here, just offside the highway. Okay, getting a better look at what I'm looking at. Yeah, you can see this large wall here. And as you can see, this has been destroyed. This has been destroyed as described in the Spanish records. Getting a closer look at this wall, we can see it's built with very large stones. Some of these stones are very large. That's about 2-foot stone right there. Coming up, looking over this wall, we can see there's 2 rooms. There's one here, and then there's also one here. Down in here there's another room. So standing in the middle of this thing, what we can see once we turn around is that right here is what I believe is where all the first milpas were. Okay, so you got these large fields here that would have been perfect for growing corn and whatnot for milpas. This wash right here, it's got very many natural springs that keep this wash running year round, so it's always running with water, which is a good water source for growing crops. Of course, it's right by your crops, easy enough to get to. And I believe this is where we see Roy Madrid and his army coming to the first milpa, and of course riding down the La Jara Canyon, making war with the Navajo people. As we go down, just down the highway, you'll see that there's another Pueblo that we'll stop by on the way out of here. And again, it's just offside the highway, because once they finished up here making war, they rode out of this canyon. Roy says he rode through up a treacherous mesa, and then they started going towards what is today Governor Door, New Mexico, where there's other ruins that we plan on visiting, and of course where other wars took place that we plan on covering. Supposedly there's another one up on top up here somewhere. We'll have to look for that one on another day. Coming back down, you can see this old red pottery right here. Check that out. Really red. There's just pottery all over this place, as I just spotted this very pretty piece right here underneath Skylo. Destroyed old pot, as you can see. Pretty unique piece there. Along with other pieces, of course, Governor Door Gray, as it's called, the gray one. And also I've seen other red pieces. Yeah, the pottery is just scattered everywhere, my friends. Like everything that was in that ruin was just thrown down the side of this hill. As you can imagine, the Spanish did. You can see there's just pieces everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's pottery on this hillside. There you can see evidence of what we see in the Spanish record, my friends. They attacked this place down here, burning these cornfields and destroying these pueblos, as it was said in the diary, the journal of the Spanish in 1705. So we're still just offside the highway, about 3 miles from our last location. As you can see the highway down there. We're kind of up on this mesa here. Between these two mesas you can see the highway running. But what we have here is another Pueblo we wanted to share with you that's again just offside the highway. Although this one's not destroyed, I do find it fascinating the way it's built. You can see a large rock wall here. And what's fascinating about this one is it's kind of built into the rock, the way the natural rock just sets. As we come down to it, you can see here's original pieces of lumber. Looking into it, we have another large piece of lumber. And you can see this is a part of the wall here that has been built. And the rest of the Pueblo, of course, is just natural rock. So I do find this fascinating. As we come in here, you can see the way it's set up. And again, we got very large stones on this here wall, and a very large, I'd say 15-foot piece of wood here for the top. So it's likely, of course, this was all roofed in its original building, but it's just offside the road. Just goes to show you that, again, there's homes all over this area to show that this was the Navajo homeland in which the Spanish said they had arrived. With only a few injured horses after slashing and smashing their way down La Jarra Canyon and destroying everything, and only stopping long enough to eat the corn of the Navajo people, the Spanish made their way up out of La Jarra Canyon, likely passing right by this rock shelter, pursuing the Navajo people who made their stand upon Los Pinolas Butte. Los Pinolas Butte is a high pinnacle rising nearly 600 feet above the valley floor to the north, and it only becomes more impressive as one approaches it. At its uppermost part, it is sheer cliffs, except for one possible place on the north side where a possible dangerous climb can be made to its flattened top, which is about 1 acre in size, and contains what looks like at least possibly 8 stone rings, which could be the remnants of early Navajo hogans. In addition, piles of stones can still be seen piled up, ready to hurl down upon enemies. And also we see amazing things in the Spanish records concerning Los Pinolas, where the Navajo people had a victorious win defending themselves against the Spanish army on August the 12th, 1705, following the La Jarra attack. Now we have plans on going up to Los Pinolas, and we would like to do a whole video within itself concerning this place, and we look forward to sharing these things with you in the near future. Over the next several decades, the Navajo people would push themselves harder, farther, and deeper into the canyons, constructing the defensive sites that we continue to find and share with you, and would continue to have conflicts with the Spanish for the next nearly 100 years. Eventually, the Spaniards would find friends among the Navajo people, and the Navajo people would find friends among the Spanish. And today, unless you were looking, you would never come to the fact that they were at one time enemies. I myself, with a Spanish background, grew up on the edge of the Navajo Nation, growing up with and today have many Navajo friends that I love dearly. And although they fought with all of their might and all of their hearts, eventually they could not hold back the tidal wave of the European invasions, but would continue to stand against their enemies, even going up against the United States government in the 1860s, until they were forced to surrender to the U.S. military forces under Kit Carson in 1864, after scorched earth campaigns were held against them, and would go on to suffer what history remembers now as the Long Walk. Forced to march by the thousands over 400 miles to Bosque Redondo internment camp, where they stayed until the treaties of 1868, and then being released to what is now the Navajo Reservation, once again flourishing, rising from the ashes, and growing into what is today the biggest reservation in the United States. We're going to put a couple of links in the description of this video for those who want to see and hear more details. We appreciate you watching. Much love.